First Take's next and final stop on the fall HBCU tour will be at Bethune-Cookman. That show will be Thursday, November 20th. So Bethune, you better show up, show out. We're looking forward to it. Go back to Sunday. Josh Allen got the better of Patrick Mahomes in their most recent duel on Sunday as the Bills picked up a critical 28-21 win over the Chiefs. With the win, Allen now improved to 5-1 in the regular season head-to-head against Mahomes. I don't know if that necessarily matters, but that's the record. The Chiefs fall to 5-4 with the loss. They're currently on the outside looking in of the AFC playoff picture, but ESPN Bet Sportsbook not only gives the Chiefs minus 700 odds to reach the playoffs, but are still the favorites to actually win the Super Bowl, if you can imagine. So let me repeat that. If the season ended right now, the Chiefs would not be in the postseason. We have them as the favorites to win the Super Bowl, but let's use our eyes a little bit here and do the eye test. Do we think that the Chiefs are actually in danger of missing the playoffs, Jeff Saturday?
I actually do. I'm nervous. I mean, listen, I said this, and y'all and Stephen A. made fun of me last week. I thought this was a bigger game for the Chiefs and the Bills last week. And the reason is they have now lost 3 of their 4 games are to wild card teams in the AFC. Right, and so they got to face the Broncos, the Colts, the Chargers, and the Broncos again. They've already lost 4 games. Now, could this team go on a historic run and win them all? Absolutely. But their play hasn't shown you that. That Bills game, the Bills were in full control of that game. They flat out got after them. Make no mistake. They made Patrick Mahomes drop his eyes to look at that rush in a hurry. Now, I know Simmons is coming back, which is a good thing for their offense, for their left tackle, but Taylor got wore out on the right side. They're getting pushed around. Patrick Mahomes can't do Patrick Mahomes things when he's getting that kind of – that is every quarterback's kryptonite. And when everybody just keeps going, no, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. Well, at some point, you kind of lose your mystique when you've lost 4 games and already this season. You still got a gauntlet of teams to play. What I saw against the Bills was shocking to me. Not because of the loss, because, again, the Bills, but it was the style of loss. I felt like the Bills were by far the most physical team, and by far they were the cleanest. Like they were sharpest team that played the other night, and I was surprised by that. I thought it would be a much more competitive game than I saw them play out.
And that was a Bills defensive front that was still shorthanded,
Correct.
Right? No Ed Oliver. He's going to be out
Correct.
for an extended period of time. So, I mean, the fact that they hit Patrick Mahomes 15 times in that game is concerning. Josh Simmons coming back will fix some of it. I don't know that he fixes all of it.
Correct.
And the Kansas City Chiefs have been one-dimensional at times on the offensive side of the ball. They don't have a lot of balance. They don't have the consistency with the running game. That's something that they're going to have to improve. But the reality is this. There are 5 teams in the conference that have more wins than them through the halfway mark of the season. They are currently sitting in third place in their own division.
Right.
One of the things that we never talk about is the Kansas City Chiefs' path to being able to get back to the Super Bowl. Well, based on the current standings, they would have to go the wild card route, and we've never seen them do that. As a matter of fact, there's only been one team over the last decade to go the wild card route and win a championship. That was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Before that, it was the Green Bay Packers led by Aaron Rodgers in 2010. So it happens on average once every decade. So again, if we're trying to figure out where to land when it comes to the extremes of the Kansas City Chiefs, whether they'll miss the playoffs or make the Super Bowl, I have to lean toward Jeff Saturday and say they're more likely to miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Stephen A., what do you think?
Y'all are insane. Y'all are insane.
I'm with you.
I mean, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. I mean, are you kidding me? What's wrong with y'all, man? Y'all both need to get tested. Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes ain't missing no damn playoffs, okay? It's not happening, all right? It's just not happening. And listen, I look at it differently. You got 2 games against Denver. That's 2 games to knock them off. Okay, you got the Indianapolis Colts. You can sit up there. You can get at them as well. Okay, of course, you got the Dallas Cowboys and a couple other teams in your schedule. I get that part. But this is a team that was giving up about 16 points a game. This is a team, obviously they gave up 21 in the first half again, but held them to 7 in the second half. It was still a game, all right? James Cook had over 100 yards rushing. When's the last time you see somebody rush for 100 yards against the Kansas City Chiefs? They're a top 10 defense. They're a top 10 offense. It's just that last year they were obviously unblemished in one-score games, and this year they're 0-4. So it's definitely been a shift. It's somewhat alarming. I get that part. But all that says to me is that Patrick Mahomes and the crew is going to be like, look, y'all, it's time to stop playing games. I mean, the urgency of the moment has arrived. All our horses all our ducks on the road, rather, and we've got the crew here. Let's handle our business and get things done. You got Andy Reid there. You got Mahomes there. You got Travis Kelce there. You got Rice and Worthy and Thornton and these brothers. I think they'll be just fine. You got a defense that, you know what, they're not shabby. They're not awful. We know this. This is not the Cowboys. This is not the Bengals. It's just a break here or there, and usually when it comes to a Patrick Mahomes, more breaks will go his way than go against him. I'm not worried about the Chiefs like that at all. You want to have a discussion about the AFC West, I get that part. But in terms of them missing the playoffs altogether, no way in hell do I believe that's going to happen. I expect Kansas City to be one of the 7 teams in the AFC in the postseason.
Chiefs have never missed the postseason since he became the starter back in 2018.
Agreed.
This is like part of their DNA. They figure out ways to win. Now the
They've
one-score
never missed
game
the AFC Championship game.
Exactly. The one-score decision-making this year obviously gives us room for pause. But there's a lot of runway left. This isn't a team that – and the game against the Bills, I thought it would be a little bit more competitive, but it's not like they were blowing them out of the water. And Patrick Mahomes was so uncomfortable the entire game.
Yeah, that's the point. They were just out physical. Like, how often have we seen a Chiefs team go in and James Cook run the pill, tote the pill on them, and then flip it over and watch their defense, who, again, is not the group that they thought that the Bills thought they were going to go in with, and just absolutely terrorize Patrick Mahomes. Like, they made – listen, that game wasn't as close as the score indicates. I'm just letting you know that was not that close of a football game. That's a problem, because the whole thing that Stephen A. is saying is, hey, now's the time. Wasn't before the Bills game the time?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, let me tell you something. They've had that conversation.
We've seen them turn it up before.
Yeah.
I agree.
We've seen that.
And Stephen
Don't
A.,
act like you don't know that.
Stephen A., you're not wrong, but when Patrick Mahomes himself is expressing urgency and saying we're kind of running out of time in terms of getting things figured out, it can't be about, hey, we'll get it fixed, we'll get it fixed. It needs to happen. When he's saying that after the game,
this road before.
then maybe we should feel the same way.
When does Patrick Mahomes sound? When has he sounded different? When has he sounded different? So there's an epiphany that hits you now. He sounded different now than he did before. Please, he always sounds like that. Okay, he takes every week seriously. The man has been in the AFC Championship game every single year he's been in the league.
No.
Okay. Every single year he's been a starter. This is what he brings.
Agreed. He is a beast. We're not trying to take away from him. What we're saying is that when he loses, it's based on the offensive line. They better fix it in a hurry.
Well, they're getting Simmons back.
Okay, he better come in and anchor it down.
Hey, by the way, guys, he's got 4 games against the AFC West. He's got 2 against the Broncos, 1 against the Chargers, 1 against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, like you just said, CC, he talked about the urgency of the moment. Well, the urgency of the moment is what Patrick Mahomes is saying against the AFC West opponent. Who you betting on?
Well, I mean, you've only won 1 game against AFC West opponents.
Yeah, already lost to the Chargers.
Okay, but they also were banged up. Like, there's. Am I making excuses?
Y'all coming up with more excuses.
Okay, I'm not making excuses for the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense has been a tough watch.
Game, like, just end it. Like, that's it. Like, that's what we need to do. Just end the game. Like, make them get us the ball back. Let us 22 victory and let's end the game. That's how I feel.
I'm gonna stay in my lane. I don't want no defensive player come and chew me out about what I'm doing.
I did hear you say some things, though, as you were walking into the locker room, Jamar Chase. Look, frustrations were clearly boiling over on Sunday for Bengals running back Chase Brown, star wide receiver Jamar Chase, after Cincy's crushing loss in the final minute to my Bears. On Monday, Bengals head coach Zach Taylor was asked about the play of his struggling, to put it lightly, defense.
We left a lot of points on the board yesterday. It was so again, we're talking a lot about the defense in here, but offensively, I was really disappointed that we didn't score more points. And that's frustrating that, when we have the opportunity to put more points on the board and not execute, could have found a way to win it that way, and then fix the problems that we're having.
Do you feel there is currently enough talent on the defensive side of the ball to compete at a championship level in the league?
I mean, what's he gonna say? No? I got scrubs in there on the defensive side of the ball. What the heck is this guy gonna say? Did you like or dislike Coach Taylor's
I actually
there?
liked what he said. I mean, the truth is, they got problems. He's collectively trying to bring everybody back together. Like what Jamar Chase said, I'm gonna stay in my lane. I don't want. But let's not miss the point. Like what Chase Brown said, he didn't call anyone out individually. He was just saying from a defense, I would expect nothing different if my offense can't score a point for 3 or 4 weeks. Like the same things are kind of going to get said. He just said it out loud when the defensive guys, by the way, wouldn't talk to the media. So, if you're getting all the questions and you've scored 40 points, I don't love, the only part of the Zach Taylor thing I don't love is when he tries to throw it back to your offense. Bro, you averaged 40 points over 2 weeks and lost them both. Okay, can we do better? Yeah, we can also win the lottery. All right, there's a lot of things we can do, bro. Pipe it down. Don't create more of a rift. He could have just said, "Hey, I don't love the comments. Let's keep to our lanes. We'll get this thing together." But he's an offensive coach. He calls the plays. Of course, he wants to score every drive. You're calling the plays, so that's kind of where it is.
Go ahead, Stephen A.
I think Zach Taylor should be gone as head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that he should be or relegated to offensive coordinator because clearly he don't give a damn about defense. You're dead last in scoring defense. You're dead last in scoring defense, total defense, and you're second to last in pass defense. And you're sitting up there talking about how I think we could have scored more points. Clearly, it's clear where your priorities lie. All right, and by the way, when you think about yourself and as an offensive mind, all of these years you've had Joe Burrow placed out of the shotgun, it's not an accident that he's essentially been going 3 of the 6 seasons that he's been in the National Football League due to injuries because he's been a target back there. Okay, you don't put him in play action situations behind center or anything like that. This is the Zach Taylor that we're talking about here. In terms of Chase Brown, I understand where he was coming from, and I agree with you, Jeff. He didn't call anybody out by name. I think I'm not going to say it's nothing because I know that you have to watch what you say. I do understand that, particularly when you have teammates. But the flip side to it is that he didn't call out anybody by names. He just said, just finish the damn game.
Right.
You understand? Just finish the game. And I know I'm looking at Jamar Chase, and to be honest with you, listen, I'm not going to use the word disappointed or anything like that because I think that would be too much. What I would say is that I would have liked to have seen those words come from Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is the stud. Jamar Chase is somebody that I look at as the best receiver in all of football. This man is a superstar who deserves every damn penny, and we know how electrifying Jamar Chase is, and we know that his play backs up everything, okay? So to me, it's perfectly within his right to look at a defense and say, just finish the damn game. He should have been the one saying what Chase Brown said. But all he said was, nah, I'm going to stay in my lane because I don't want the defense coming at me saying something. Nah. It's like when you that dude, you can say that. When you that dude, you can do that because when they lose, it usually ain't because of no damn Jamar Chase. So that, to me, instead of Chase Brown, it should have been that should have been Jamar Chase speaking. But that's just where I'm at with the Cincinnati Bengals. They're horrible defensively, just horrible.
The problem is rinse and repeat from last year. They're worse than they were defensively. Yeah. We were having the same conversation a year ago. We have a minute. Go ahead.
Shae, that's how they built the team.
Hey, thank you.
So, everybody's frustrated. They scored 80 points over the last 2 weeks, and they didn't come away with the win because their defense allows every opposing offense to play at the same level as the Cincinnati Bengals. That's not on the defensive players as much as it's on the front office and the ownership deciding that this is philosophically who we want to be. Now, as far as what Zach Taylor said, I respect it. Because even though the Bengals put up 40 points, there are always things that you can do better. Or like Joe Flacco, not throwing a late red zone pick.
Right.
The defense after that sequence, though, ends up forcing a punt, getting your offense the ball back, coincidentally. How about Evan McPherson not missing a field goal?
Yeah.
How about that? Here's the thing that people don't want to talk about. The Cincinnati Bengals defense forced more punts than the Chicago Bears defense. They did. That's the reality of it. So, yeah, there are always things that you can do better. But when you get into the business of finger pointing, it becomes a dicey situation, and it doesn't lead to where anybody in that locker room wants to go.
They've allowed 300 points over their first 9 games.
It's about us. We've got to win. Everything's still in front of us, but this is a huge game for us tonight.
What a start to this night for Marvin Harrison Jr.
To everything else the Cowboys have done wrong tonight, add a turnover.
The better team tonight has been Arizona. It's been a mistake-filled night for the Dallas Cowboys, and the frustration palpable here in Arlington.
This will be in contention for the worst loss of the year.
And then they say a picture is worth 1 billion words. There it is. All right. Stephen A's like, all right, good luck. I'm out of here. I'm going to go post on social media.
do anything. I gotta get out of this box now. I've seen enough because the Cowboys defense continued to struggle last night, allowing 27 points to the Cardinals. On the season, the defense ranked bottom 2 in points per game, total yards, passing touchdowns. Look, Dallas just clearly missing Micah Parsons in a lot of ways. Remember, he was traded before the start of the season. So speaking of Micah, yesterday, Jerry Jones joined Stephen A on his radio show and had some interesting thoughts on his former player.
Now, this is not fair. Micah's not here. I'm going to tell you something. I really think a lot of Micah Parsons. And it wasn't a question of wanting him on the team, but to anoint him in terms of that and everybody else looking at him, you better have some thinking. Not one time, not even in the hottest of days and two-a-days in August in Texas, between 11 in the morning or when they quit practicing or 4 in the afternoon, did I never see any one of these two go over and lay on a damn training table in front of 1 million people.
Okay, that was my first time hearing that. Oh, my. Drew Brees joins us now here on First Take. Good morning to you, Drew. What's your reaction to Jerry Jones' comments on Micah?
Well, you hate to take shots at guys that are no longer there, and things that have already been done. But I think if you really look into it, there's a reason that Micah Parsons isn't there, beyond just not being able to get the contract done. If you truly felt in Dallas like he was going to be the core of your defense for the next 8 to 10 years, you would have paid him whatever he needed to get that job done. But obviously there was some doubt there, and Jerry was alluding to that. He was referencing 2 of the greats right there, DeMarcus Ware and Michael Irvin, as being guys that were the core of those locker rooms for a long time. Obviously, he didn't feel that way about Micah, because if he did, they would have gotten that deal done no matter what it cost. Because every team needs core guys in the locker room on both sides of the ball to maintain the culture, just the overall work ethic, the overall, just how you approach that locker room and building your team so that every young person who comes in knows what the standard is and what's expected of them, so that they could perform at the highest level for that organization for the amount of time that they're there. Every team needs that core. And obviously they didn't feel like he was part of that core.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's clear by moving on from him that you didn't feel like Micah Parsons was a guy that was worth the money. And I'm not saying just from a production standpoint, but it's all the intangibles that go into your team having a successful culture and eventually winning championships, right? When Brian Schottenheimer took over as the head coach, one of the first things he did was rearrange the locker room and put Micah Parsons' locker right next to Dak Prescott. You don't do that if you don't have some concern about Micah Parsons' ability to lead. And this is a player that has had issues in the past with what he's done on his podcast and seemingly throwing teammates under the bus, what he's done in terms of answering questions to the media, throwing Mike McCarthy under the bus once upon a time, saying I'm not trying to win for them, or now the coach aside, he can leave whenever he wants, all of those other things. When the player is creating the controversy, it is more problematic.
Oh, there we go.
It is more problematic. Jerry Jones does it all the time.
Here's the double standard. We're about to step in. I like it. Keep feeding me. I like this.
But when the player creates that kind of controversy, it becomes an issue in the locker room, and players that were in that Dallas Cowboys locker room have said as much. As Jordan Lewis, former cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, said as much. So, again, when it comes to the Micah Parsons of it all, it feels like it's been trending this way for some time. There have been some questions about Micah beyond just his ability on the field. There is no question about what he does in between the lines, but you're not paying a guy $40+ million a year just for his production. You're also paying him to be a leader, and it's clear that that wasn't necessarily the feeling in Dallas.
Okay, Jeff, I want to hear, and Stephen A., your responses. But what's wild is I feel like all that you alluded to that, yes, happened in Dallas has disappeared. There's been none of that since he's arrived in Green Bay. He hasn't been going off on his podcast. He hasn't been throwing, I mean, at least to my knowledge.
Do we care about his podcast as much now that he's not a Dallas Cowboy?
Well, that's a good point. He's still Micah Parsons.
No, we don't. We don't.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But I do feel like he's toned it down a little bit. No?
Here's the thing for me. This is such a double standard. It's a joke. First of all, Jerry backed the Brinks truck up. It just wasn't enough for Micah. So make no mistake, Micah could have taken the deal and been just fine. He could have taken 41 instead of 46. Don't think Jerry was rescinding the deal, right? Like he got his feelings hurt because he thought Micah said yes to one thing and then changed his mind. It wasn't because he wasn't a good locker room guy. It wasn't because all the other nonsense you're talking about a podcast or whatever, right? Like Jerry wants to stir it up. Micah loves to stir it up too. When he hits the white lines, Micah's a freaking terror, bro. And he goes after people, and he's an absolute nightmare. They weren't paying Micah to be a leader. They were paying Micah to get sacks, get pressures, get strip sacks, get all the things, right? Not everybody in the locker room has to be a, quote, locker room guy who might need to be helped to meetings to make them on time. They still are a Dallas Cowboy, and they're still balling. So when we talk about what you allow in your building, this is Jerry having a freaking double standard, and I don't feel... This is a ridiculous shot on the way out, in my opinion. Like, Jerry had no reason to take a bash at Micah Parsons. Micah's gone. He ain't saying about Jerry. Who cares? They played to a tie. It's like milquetoast. No one cares. Jerry wants to take a shot because he wants to be right. The problem is Jerry wants to create a storm. Micah created the same storm. Both of them produce. Micah produced. Jerry makes franchise values go up. Don't be mad because the guy changed his mind on how much money he was going to take and act like you weren't going to pay him. Whether you're paying the dude 41 or 44, it's just a number that got moved that upset Jerry. His feelings got hurt. It had nothing to do with what that player does in the locker room.
Well, maybe that comment was to stir up controversy. He said he likes to do it. Maybe he knew that they were going to have a losing night. I don't know, Stephen A. What did you make of it? You were sitting right there.
Jeff Saturday's right. And I told Jerry that. I didn't ask Jerry about Micah Parsons. Jerry came there and, Jerry volunteered. And he spoke up about it. And obviously he had things on his mind that he wanted to say, particularly with Michael Irvin and DeMarcus Ware right there in attendance, two former Dallas Cowboys. Several things could be true. Everything that CeCe said, I have no disagreement with. But in the same breath, Jeff, you're absolutely right when you point out what you pointed out, because you came to the table with $40 to $41 million. You were clearly willing to pay him that. The manner in which Micah Parsons handled it, that's the story that hasn't been told. And that's where, even though we can excoriate Jerry to some degree, because obviously he deserves it because Micah Parsons is a stud and you don't let that guy walk out your door. The flip side to it, however, and Drew Brees makes a very, very valid point with what he articulated. You know what? If Jerry thought of Micah Parsons, the young man, as well as he thought about Micah Parsons, the player, Micah Parsons in all likelihood would still be a Dallas Cowboy. I think that's a profoundly important point to bring up. He definitely is salty about Micah Parsons, which begs the question as to why that is. When I interviewed him for my YouTube show and my radio show months ago, if you recall, before the season started, Jerry Jones talked about how Micah Parsons came up to him and wanted to talk to him. Now, Micah Parsons' agent, David Mulugeta, says Micah Parsons was talking to him. He was, summoned to talk with Jerry about a team leadership conversation. Jerry has a different spin. We were talking about a contract. He says that Micah Parsons wanted that, wanted to have that discussion. They talked about it, etc. They shook hands, all of this other stuff. And then the next thing you know, Micah Parsons is calling him and say, "Don't call me anymore. Call my agent." And Jerry Jones looked me dead in the face and he said, "I shut everything down." In other words, Steven and everybody else and anybody else that negotiates cap, that negotiates salaries, etc., he shut everything down. And it was clear why he did that, because he was highly offended at how Micah Parsons came at him. Now, we haven't heard from Micah Parsons about that. Micah Parsons, and here's where it gets a little dicey for Micah Parsons, respectfully. You've got your own podcast. And on top of it all, you're somebody that's known to do interviews and known to talk. But all of a sudden, once Jerry made those allegations, those assertions about what transpired pertaining to your direct communication with one another, we've heard nothing but crickets. And so obviously, the only person that's spoken about it is Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is inclined to speak about it. And who knows? I mean, I don't, at this point in time, you just say to yourself, look, Jerry, it just doesn't look good. Because Micah Parsons is playing for the Green Bay Packers, and all of us believe they're going to the playoffs. And y'all behinds are going home because Dallas ain't going to no damn playoffs. And Dallas is the second worst defense in all of football. They look like straight trash, okay? If it wasn't for the Cincinnati Bengals, you would be purgatory on the defensive side of the ball, the entire National Football League. So Jerry Jones definitely comes across looking worse than Micah Parsons in this. But the bottom line is, clearly whatever communication happened with them did a lot to change Jerry's thinking about the young man that Micah Parsons is. No matter how often he says he loves and respects Micah Parsons, he's clearly salty about some things, and I think that's what came across.
Drew, final word.
Yeah. Well, I say it's obviously Cowboys need a lot more help than just one edge rusher. And so we're going to see what they do with those picks. But I don't think Micah Parsons being on the Cowboys right now would be helping them very much, to be honest with you, on defense.
Like, my thought is like, help a little.
And Jerry said that. Jerry said that, by the way.
He did say that.
Jerry says that, which is justification for him not paying what Micah Parsons ultimately got paid by Green Bay. He was like, well, how much? He literally looked at Shae. He literally looked over at Michael and DeMarcus, and he was like, did we have that? The leadership, this, the intangible. Did we have that? You sure we had that? I'm not sure we had that. That's what he was saying on the broadcast. Okay. Literally.
Let me make this as clear as I can make it. The onus should fall to the owner/GM. If you can have a player as good as Micah Parsons is, and you don't have other players around him to make your defense better, that's a problem for you. That's your job as the general manager. Then you should have built that defense a lot different than we got there this year and last year. Because if you got that dog,
I agree.
You build around him, bro. That's your first job as general manager is to put great pieces around great players. You ain't done it. Again, falls back to Jerry.
It does fall back to Jerry, and it started by dragging out the Dak Prescott contract negotiation years ago.
Again.
But that's the way they
Absolutely.
Jerry.
Absolutely.
Jerry's world,
Totally
man.
true.
And then maybe that's why he needs to give a parting shot on the way out. I don't know.
Jacoby Brissett, outstanding again here tonight. I don't know how you take him off the field no matter how the foot is for Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I agree with that, Joe, and I don't think they will. I don't think you can, quite honestly, because it wasn't like they were playing good offensively while Kyler Murray was playing. Their best football has been the last 3 games. Granted, they lost the previous 2, but with this win, this is big. I don't know how you then send Jacoby Brissett to the bench.
Will Kyler still be your starting quarterback when
Yeah, nothing's changed on that. That's how I feel.
Really, Coach Gannon? Nothing's changed after yesterday. After you snap a 5-game losing streak and Brissett throws for 261 yards. I don't know. There's definitely a predicament, though. We heard Troy Aikman and Joe Buck obviously say, I don't know how you move away from Jacoby Brissett after now he goes 1-0. He's the first time ever playing against the Dallas Cowboys. Clearly, the Cardinals look better with him under center. Yet, Kyler Murray is your franchise quarterback. What do you do, Drew Brees? What do you do if you are Jonathan Gannon going forward with the quarterback position?
Well, I mean, is Kyler Murray your franchise quarterback? I mean, has he ever been your franchise quarterback? I mean, everything that I've ever heard coming out of Carolina is you've got mixed emotions all over the place, from the fan base to the locker room to so many. And I know that you paid him, and I know that you've basically put him in that position and tried to set him up for success. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's never been solidified there. That's always been an up in the air, and it's really you've never had a moment where somebody stepped in and actually given the team some hope. And now you have that with Jacoby Brissett. A veteran guy who has a ton of maturity. I mean, you just see him coming into his own. You see the way that the players respond to him. You could feel it last night as you're watching the game. And it's hard to put numbers or metrics to that other than just what you're watching. And I don't think you can take Jacoby Brissett off the field right now. They've played their best football over the last couple of weeks. They're trending up. And at the end of the day, if I'm the head coach, I'm going around to the leaders on the team, and I'm pulling them in the office, and I'm going to get their perspective. I'm going to get their feeling on it. But I think you have to roll with Jacoby Brissett at this point.
Jeff?
I understand where Drew is headed with it, and I get it. Like, has Kyler ever been? I would tell you there's the game of football and there's the business of football. And I think the business of football is going to put Kyler back in that starting role, right? Is that you go get guys like Jacoby Brissett to come in and give you 3 or 4 games where you stay competitive, right? So he's 1-2. They beat the Cowboys, who got the second worst defense in the league. They put up some good points. They played a tough game against the Packers, a tough game against the Colts where they moved the ball. They are definitely better, like offensively, number-wise statistics, with him being at that position. But when you've made the investment the Cardinals have made into Kyler Murray, it would be this is a massive move, because if you bench him or you stay with Jacoby Brissett when he's 100%, you're going to have to cut him. This is not going to be a guy you're not going to make your backup, right? And you can't trade him because of his contract. Otherwise, you're going to have all kinds of issues, right? And so so the business of football tells me Kyler Murray is going to be a starter, whether we like it or not, whether Jacoby Brissett has played his way into a position. And listen, from a guy who came from an undrafted rookie free agent, I can let you know, football ain't fair. And they play a lot of guys ahead of you that you got to go beat out. And this one in particular at this position, and Drew knows it better than everybody else, when you put that much money into a guy, you better have a hard sell to ownership that we're moving on for this guy permanently. Because if you bench him, then that's where you're going to have to go. It's not going to go quietly into the night. Yeah, I don't feel like Kyler. I don't know Kyler at all, but I wouldn't feel like he's going to be the guy that's just super quiet about getting benched for an injury. And that's just my take on the business versus the game.
Stephen A?
Well, he's not going to be super quiet. He's definitely not going to be happy. He's probably going to want out. Let's make sure we throw out some of these facts. Number one, he was the number 1 overall pick in 2019, okay? He hasn't had a winning season as a starter since his second Pro Bowl year in 2021, okay? And the coach, Jonathan Gannon, didn't arrive until 2023 along with the GM. So loyalty doesn't apply here. Those guys came 4 years after Kyler Murray was drafted number 1. They don't owe him anything. They're trying to win. So they don't owe him anything. We got to get that out the way. Secondly, when we look at the comparisons between him and Jacoby Brissett, clearly Jacoby Brissett has been far more productive right now when you compare 357 and 288, 287 in passing yards to 192, 25.7 points per game, 20.6 points per game, right? So now here's where it gets tricky and the business element comes into play, as you pointed out, Jeff. Kyler Murray is in the second year of an extension where he's receiving an annual salary of $46.1 million, okay? Second year of a massive 5-year contract extension. From the business perspective, you want to be able to make sure you get some compensation for a Kyler Murray, as opposed to just letting him walk out the door. That's what I think. So if that's what your ultimate business move is, let's make sure we get some equitable compensation for his services, because there's some things we could get for Kyler Murray out there, because a lot of teams could use a quarterback like Kyler Murray. Let's be very, very clear about that. It's not like the guy's a scrub and can't play. But the flip side to it is this. If I'm going to let him go, right, then perhaps I bring him back, put him in the starting lineup, and see what he has. Or I'm looking, what decision do I make? Am I better off putting him in and seeing how he plays and hope we don't nosedive and as a result his value doesn't diminish? Or am I better off doing that or holding him out and letting Jacoby Brissett play and just moving on from him thereafter? Because if you do that, what kind of effect is that going to have on the marketability? If you've already benched him and said you don't want him, and Jacoby Brissett is our new quarterback for the future, for this year and the future, how's that going to help you when you're trying to make a deal to get something for Kyler Murray? I think that's what we have to go back and forth with, CC, in terms of thinking what's the best course of action to take in terms of Kyler Murray moving forward. I definitely don't think he's the future of the Arizona Cardinals. I think they know that. But it's about trying to get some compensation for him.
Yeah, well, weighing playing him and the team continuing to lose versus benching him and seeing what happens, I think those are two bad choices that this regime is faced with. But the reality is this. The product on the field is better.
Yeah.
And the head coach is in a position where he got to win games to save his damn job. Jacoby Brissett makes this offense better. They're averaging a touchdown more per game. They're averaging 80 yards more passing per game, 70 more total yards per game. And you know what? When we start talking about the return on investment, how about Trey McBride, who you made the second highest paid tight end in the sport? How does he look with Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback versus Kyler Murray? Or what about Marvin Harrison Jr.? How does he look? Top 5 pick from a year ago. How does he look with Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback versus Kyler Murray? That might be the biggest indictment on Kyler Murray, what those two pass catchers look like with a different signal caller. Last night, on the first 2 drives, Jacoby Brissett 5 of 7 targeting Marvin Harrison Jr., 4 first downs and a touchdown where he put Deron Bland in the spin cycle. The throw that Jacoby Brissett made to Michael Wilson coming out of halftime on the deep dig, I can't tell you the last time I saw Kyler Murray make a throw like that.
Right. It does.
The evolution of the passing game, the offense as a whole is different. Even though I'll acknowledge Kyler Murray is a more dynamic player, the offense is more dynamic with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback, which is why I think they should stay with Jacoby as their starter for the rest of the season if they're trying to win football games.
The problem is you don't have a lot of time to tinker with this decision because you have to go to Seattle next weekend and face the Seahawks, who are blowing people out of the water at this point and could embarrass you, okay? So you don't have time to be like, maybe we should throw in a Kyler Murray. Maybe we should stick with Jacoby Brissett. It sounds like you're the only one here that thinks Kyler Murray.
I'm not even throwing my weight. I love Jacoby Brissett. Even in Indy, you brought him as a backup quarterback. He's doing what you ask of backup quarterbacks. Unfortunately for Kyler Murray, is the numbers are better. They're playing hot. But I'm just going to tell you from a guy who's been in the locker room my whole life. Like the backup quarterback's always the favorite guy in the locker room, right? But if they slide, right, they go to Seattle and they lose and they back up with another. He's lost 4 of 5, right? Like all of a sudden the dynamic changes, y'all. Like we feel great today because they just beat the Cowboys, who got a really bad offense. Just be careful. Like all I'm saying is,
how many coaches is Kyler Murray gonna get fired?
I get it.
Because he's working on number 2.
You making a great
point.
He's
working on number 2. How many coaches you gonna let the quarterback get fired?
Yeah, and I'm not a Kyler Murray apologist. I'm just saying from the business of football, I would tend to believe Kyler Murray is going to be starting under the Cardinals sooner rather than later. That's just going to be.
Drew, before we go to break.
Hey, I think we could push. I think Kyler Murray gets pushed through this. You know, just because Jacoby Brissett starts next week or the week after doesn't mean he's going to start for the rest of the season. Like you said, you wait and see how you're doing. If you continue to trend upward, you stick with him. And if you don't, then Kyler comes back in after sitting on the bench and realizing that, you know what, I got to earn it every time I step on the field. Yep. Being benched or having to sit down for a little bit, in a lot of cases, should be a good thing. It just depends on the way you're wired.
Yeah.
I've been benched 3 times. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I hated it and was pissed off during the time, but it forces you to be a great teammate, swallow your pride, and figure out how to get better. And that's where Kyler is right now. Figure out how to get better.
It's a great point. I remember you mentioned the coaches getting fired. Josh Rosen got let go after one season. In comes Kyler Murray. Now we're seeing it maybe with Gannon and the same situation as Cliff Kingsbury. We'll see. Again, not a lot of time to figure it out.